Good morning. Welcome back. I'm sorry I'm having camera issues. Welcome to Claude and Nathan. I'm going to throw them up here. And actually, you know what? Given that my camera isn't working, I think I don't want to read your bios. I just love to have you gentlemen introduce yourself. You're familiar faces to me, and I'm really looking forward to this session. So I'm going to go away and see if I can fix my camera for the Q&A. So take it away, gents.
All right, very good. Claude, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, Jeremy. And thanks to the Preseam team for having us here to talk about a really incredibly timely topic. So Claude Aiken, Chief Strategy and Legal Officer at NextLink Internet. My portfolio across the company is pretty broad, and definitely have been a very heavy user of AI in the last year. So happy to chat about it for sure.
Very good. And I'm Nathan Stuck. I'm the founder and CEO of Whisper. Started it 23 years ago. I saw people in the chat saying how many years they were in the industry, and it's definitely been a long time. Can't even say out of my garage is at my '86 Honda Accord with a fold-up ladder. But oh boy, we have come a long way. It's been great to see how our industry has grown and what we've done. And I'd like to point out that Claude is the original Claude. Please do not get him confused with Claude AI. That's got to be horrible for you, Claude. If you ever go search your name on the internet, you never come up in any searches now because
I know
it's Claude
it's
AI.
sad. It's sad. Actually, Bloomberg wrote an article about that just this past week about how hard it is to be a person named Claude, and they went out and interviewed a bunch of people named Claude about how Claude AI is impacting them in their personal lives, which was kind of funny.
Right. I think that we call those unintended consequences, right?
Exactly. It's exactly how all of the women named Alexa felt before Amazon decided to name their home smart services Alexa. So
yes. I did have a friend in high school. Her name was Tina Turner. And for the longest time, I thought she was like her name. She was given that name before Tina Turner became big. And then as I got older, I realized, oh no, she got the name 10 years after Tina Turner. So she was named after her.
That's interesting.
Definitely excited to share with everybody kind of how we're looking at AI and how it kind of helps the rural and regional ISP. Listening to the whole session yesterday and today, there's a lot of really good nuggets in there, and hopefully you'll get some nuggets out of our conversation here.
For sure. Yeah, so I think we just kind of came up with a framework. We're just going to sort of ask each other some questions and chat back and forth about how our organizations are using AI and how smaller rural and regional ISPs can get significant benefits out of adopting AI in a variety of different fashions. So I guess I'll just kind of kick off to you, Nathan. I mean, how are you viewing implementing AI at Whisper?
Yeah, I think it's a really good foundational question because I see AI in two different forms. I see it how my individual employees use it. So Claude for my programmers, Copilot, ChatGPT, those things. How do our individual contributors use AI? And then I see it as systems AIs. How do our systems use it? Like right now, I don't have an active way for my field installers to use AI. However, we're using it for how we dispatch and how we schedule and how we do some of our training. And I think when people conflate that and they think AI is just, oh, how do I use AI? They run into problems when they're trying to set up policies for both. And once we split that apart and said, no, how do our individuals use it? You're not allowed to load personal data into systems. You're not allowed to use free versions because if it's free, you are the product, right? We have all of these policies and procedures which are different than when my IT staff says, I'm going to implement a call review system that then checks to make sure we were friendly to the customer and those things. So once we started kind of breaking that down, and both of them are very important, but you have different criteria and a different way of looking at it when you think of it in those two veins. And that really helped us catapult our adoption of it, right? And how we're using it. And it's funny, not a lot, I would say some of our employees are kind of like, well, I don't want to use AI and I'm not going to do it. And it's like, well, the break it to you, you're already using a lot of it. You're already actually
Yeah,
every day
exactly.
interacting with it, and you don't even realize it. But we're trying to put those integrated those into our systems and everything. So yeah,
Yeah,
how are
for
you
sure.
guys implementing it at your company, and what are you trying
Yeah,
to do with that?
it's I think that's a helpful framework to use to break it down, right? Because I think for us, we're encouraging uh, pretty much all of our employees whose function could benefit from the use of the individual AI to adopt it in some form or fashion. And I think we can talk a little bit more about how that works out a little bit later. But then it's the same sort of thing. We're implementing system AI, everything from a tool that will allow us to evaluate the likelihood of a particular customer churning, right? For a ISP in rural, the threat of competition and the threat of Starlink is a lot more real now than it was a few years ago. So trying to figure out which of your customers are more likely to churn based on 50, 60 different pieces of data can be a valuable tool. We're also using it to increase the intelligence around our infrastructure response times, right? So you've got alarms that are going off on a variety of different pieces of equipment in a variety of different places for a variety of different reasons. It can take a human a little while to sort through all of that. AI can do that a lot more quickly. You still have to have a human in the loop to, at this point at least, to be able to sort of fully sign off on the issue and implement a fix. But I think we're getting pretty close to the point where AI could maybe even do the fixes itself.
Yeah.
Having rogue intelligence touching your network may be a little bit scary to some folks, but it's definitely a tool like that has allowed us to cut down our response time to alarms, by orders of magnitude, significantly. And then, I mean, we've also been adopting an AI chatbot for customer service, and it's interesting because when we turned it on, a big core value of ours is making sure that we have good customer service, and we that impacted the choice to say, hey, okay, we're going to make this available. We're not going to force people to choose it. They can still talk to a human if they want. And when we first turned it on, it was interesting because the data showed that the majority of people actually chose to talk to the AI bot rather than a human customer service agent. So when you adopt AI, you get some sort of interesting results that you didn't really think about. Um, and so it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. When I was talking to Cam months ago when you guys first turned that on, it blew my mind that it was over 70% of
Yeah,
people
yeah.
chose, like, well, instead of just waiting on hold, let me try. And I know since then I've talked to multiple companies through their AI agent. Some are not so good. I
Some
mean,
are good, some are not so good.
no, it is painful. Like, I'm stuck in this loop and I can't get out. Whereas I know you guys have like a ripcord, right? At any time you can be
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
at
put me
any
back to the
time,
queue. I don't want
absolutely.
to talk to this machine." So I think that's fascinating how you guys have done that. How has implementing AI helped your ability to hire? Like, what are you seeing the differences between rural and urban hiring marketplaces with the lens of AI on?
Sure, sure. It's interesting. One of the things that we have seen for heavy AI adopters, right? AI enables, and again, we're kind of talking about the individual AI use case
Yep.
here. But if you hire somebody who is proficient with using AI, even if they otherwise may not be the most experienced, the most knowledgeable, the have the best resume, be the best at their job. If they're willing to learn, and if they are taking full advantage of kind of this co-intelligence that exists alongside you in an individual capacity, their performance really jumps, and it's sort of the leveled the playing field between the higher performers internally and the lower performers. So what that means is that we're probably more comfortable going out and hiring a teachable, tech savvy person than necessarily trying to find somebody in an urban area who has 50 years of experience. Don't get me wrong, the experience is absolutely critical to have in some places and at some stages. But it's enabled us to look a little bit more broadly at the potential talent base that's out there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love that. It kind of remember when Google was coming out, and like when if you were the one that knew how to use Google, you had all the knowledge,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
And it's the same way with AI now. That I love the way you frame that. That you can take a medium performer and really scale them up in a very quick way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what it says about me that we looked at some of our internal data the other day after that discussion, and I'm kind of the number two in the company in terms of tokens used. So I don't know what that says about my overall performance, but
You're
it does mean
analyzing
that I'm
very
a
complex contracts.
pretty heavy AI adopter just on an individual basis. So yeah, I guess I'll kind of turn that around to you, Nathan. Like, how do you see your employees using AI, and what are some of the interesting things you see them do?
Yeah, so I was pushing my employees, or I do push my employees to use AI. I want them to use it. I want them to be involved in it, and I wasn't getting pushback, but I wasn't getting a lot of people interested in it, right? They were like, oh, okay. And this is back at the beginning of the whole bead application. And, you had 150 different questions. We were bidding in 10 or 15 states, and I was like, all right, let's break this up. Let's have you answer these and you answer those. And I finally said, you know what, guys, I want it to be a common theme across all of our answers. I don't want them to be able to tell that two different people, in our case, five different people wrote something. So let me take a stab at it tonight. I'm going to answer these questions with AI. It's a new tool I just downloaded, just become a customer, and I put it in. And in 3 hours, I produced almost 300 pages worth of documentation. And at first, I would lead it. I would answer the question, right. I would cut and paste the question in, and then I would lead what I wanted it to say. Well, answer it this way, answer it that way, answer it this way. And then as those of us who did bead, we realized it was asking the same question five different ways, slightly different. And then, like,
Mhm.
I don't know, on question 20, I'm like, I'm not going to lead this. I'm just going to ask it. And now it hallucinated and it made up stuff, and we had to delete things and we couldn't say all those things. But it was an eye opener for the rest of the team. And they're like, I'm sorry, you did this in 3 hours. I'm like, yeah, 3 hours last night. Like, we're done. We thought this was going to be a month-long process for us. And then all they had to do was read it over. So that was when I really started to see other people of my individual contributors, if you will, not the systems, start to really say, wow, I want to learn more. How do I do this? And so it was really good. Now, the flip side of that is I've had some other employees who you can tell they use AI, which I'm totally fine with. I want them to use AI.
Mhm.
But then they, like, when they cut and paste it, they miss, and they cut and paste in the next step, I could turn this into a one-page executive summary, or if you want, I could expand more detail. And I'm like, whoa, okay.
Mm.
And that's fine. You missed it. But then what I would do is I would ask them questions about what they posted, right? What they came up with.
Mhm.
And I noticed that some of them had no idea what was in there. And it's like, whoa, hold on. Like, yes, I'm glad you used AI because it helped you frame your information. It helped you do all these things. However, you still have accountability. You are still ultimately responsible
Absolutely.
for the good stuff that it puts out and the junk that it puts out. And that was some teachable moments that we had to have, because if we didn't do that, then we would be just as smart or just as dumb as AI. And as we all know, AI can't make any mistakes. It always says, "Oh, well, that's a good catch," and it's like, "Oh my goodness." But we have to have the human side of things. I do not want to give them a free pass, and I'm actually much harder on them for not paying attention to what they cut and paste in than I am for them either not using AI or using AI, because we just I want them to use it, but we have to be responsible with it. Yeah. So on, we're talking about AI and using it, and I was doing up the numbers. Copilot, I think it's $30 per person and everything, and we're like, oh, can we afford it for everybody in the company? Do they all need it? And then you start to look at it and say, well, wait a minute, my bill rate's $300 an hour. If I save 1 hour, I mean that covers 10 months. Like, yes, all executive level people, all office people should have this because you can really harness it. But how are you guys looking at it? I know you guys have done a lot of in-house, right? Where I've seen your
Yeah,
data center and the amount of power you have coming in. I mean, yes, you're able to heat your
and
building.
we need more.
Heat your building in Texas, right? But how are you guys
Yeah.
looking at that? What are you guys looking on making these decisions? Whether you use a service or you bring it in-house? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, there's no real secret sauce around it. I mean, I think a lot of it is justified in terms of time and costs saved, right? So if we think that we can do, either turn up a better service for the customer, save some money, save some time, ultimately that makes us a better company. I'll give you just sort of one quick example in the legal function, which I oversee. Sometimes we'll have a huge influx of contracts that need to be reviewed, and so sometimes we've sent them out to outside counsel for review, and that'll be a few $100 for them to go through every single contract. At this point, I've built up a specialized contract review playbook that AI can run review off of, and I've actually found that the outputs are better than some of our lower costs outside counsel. And I'm spending a couple bucks in tokens on each contract review as opposed to a few $100s in outside counsel review. So that's just one area. Some of the other things that I've talked about, the system-based AI, we've liked it so much that we've kind of spun it off and are looking to sell that to other ISPs at this point. That's something that we have to invest in, on-prem clusters and local models and things like that. But things that are going to be sort of system-wide giant cost savings rather than a few $100 here or there. That's something where we're more likely to invest in the infrastructure necessary to run our own LLMs and data on-prem. But overall, it's just can we save time? Can we save money? Can we serve the customer better? And if the answer to any one of those is yes, it justifies the investment in it.
Yeah, I love how you guys frame it up in man hours saved, right? How many man hours? You talked early on about how you're trying to get your response time down, and you're right. You have a huge network. 95% of all the warnings you don't even have to look at.
Exactly.
You have to get through them, and when you guys say, "Hey, I want to save 200 man hours a week," well, what do you do? How do you do that? And at least in Whisper, there's never a shortage of work. It isn't like I'm looking at
There is not.
reducing my workforce. I'm looking at doing all of that boring stuff and then coming back and saying, hey, how do I then get them to do all the other more important things I need them to do? So I think that's really good.
Nathan, I want to ask a follow-up question on that
Yeah,
because
please.
we've got a little bit more time left, and selfishly, I want to get a question in. The conversation's been really lively and fantastic, guys. But this is something that both of you touched on, but I'd love to hear from you both on. We hear a lot of kind of fear, uncertainty, and doubt about the costs of AI. Like it's going to result in a 10x workforce reduction, and of course, you're thinking about it more from the perspective is how can I make the people that I have today more productive so I can grow my business. I'm not trying to shrink my business. And both of you touched a little bit on the kind of skills that a human needs now in order to be this human in the loop, which we could foresee at least for some time before we, are fully agentic. And you talked a little bit about teachability being a key attribute. What are some other human attributes that you're finding really produce standout high performers that previously are those soft skills? Are those a combination of soft and hard skills? Like, I don't want to prime it, but maybe you first, Nathan.
Oh,
Good question.
One that doesn't have anything to do with AI necessarily. We have a high school group they call the CEO, and they come in every day. They get up early, 6 o'clock in the morning. Or 7 o'clock in the morning. They're here, and when you first get introduced to them, they can't look you in the face, and they barely shake your hand, and they're just very timid. And then by the end of the semester, actually even partway through the semester, oh, Mr. Stuk, so nice to meet you. Thank you so much. And it's like a night and day difference. So I think the biggest skill that is hard to learn out there is actually communicating with people, right? Not your face in your phone, not your whatever. And that's something that AI can't replace. It can help you communicate better, but you still physically have to do it. I think that's a really big one. The other one for me, teachability is great. I think to add and onto that, I would say curiosity. The one thing I really like about AI is that I will put into it 4 or 5 ideas I have. It will spit back 5 or 6 that I had already thought about. I didn't think were good or whatever. 2 that are horrible. Like, no, I'm not doing that. And then 2 I never thought of. And it's like, oh, that's what I need. Being curious, being able to work with things and really, really take it one step further, and not being so much like it has to be perfect before I do anything with it. I can be curious and ask questions.
Fantastic answer, Nathan. I love that. That lifelong curiosity. That's what makes learners, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Lifelong learners. How about you, Claude?
Yeah, I think Nathan just kind of stole my answer, so
Sorry,
I'll
I got to go
I'll I'll
first.
just I'll echo it. Yeah, I mean, I think curiosity is absolutely key. I mean, we are at the sort of the bottom of the S curve in terms of AI adoption and the life cycle, and so there's a lot of first adopter scenarios going on right now. And first adopter doesn't necessarily mean leader, but it does mean sort of leg up on the next guy, at least for the near future. Uh, and then I'd also echo the soft skills piece, right? So uh, AI has gotten great at ideating and sort of coming alongside you as a co-intelligence. Some of the emails that it writes, that things could be communicated a little bit better. Yeah, and there are ways that you can train that, but knowing, understanding people, having good communication, uh, having those good sort of soft people skills are things that it's going to, I'm not going to say AI is never going to get there, but it's going to take a lot longer for it to be able to replace those kind of skills.
I think it's a real opportunity for us to lean back into being human again, right?
Mm.
Let's
For
offload some
sure.
of the stuff maybe we weren't that great at in the first place. So, not to inject my own opinions there, but I really appreciate both of you taking the time to have this conversation in front of us. We got to listen in on it, and thank you for answering the questions. We're gonna move on to our next session. I hope you stick around for that, and please continue to use the chat here, folks. Really, thank you, Claude. Thank you, Nathan, and I look forward to seeing you at a show soon.
It's good. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.